This is my website. I rebuilt it last week using Claude Design and Codex together, and I want to show you the exact way I got these two tools to actually talk to each other. The old version is here on the left. It looked like every other AI builder landing page. The new version on the right, same domain, same person, just a completely different brand underneath. And by the end of this video, you will have a rebuild loop you can run on your own site this weekend. It is 5 steps: the brand prompt that kept me from looking generic, the single move that made Codex stop guessing, the 4 mockup trick, local preview, and the git revert that let me move fast without breaking anything, including the moment I almost punted the whole rebuild and bought a Tailwind template. So quick context so the rebuild makes sense. Ship Lean is my one-person operator brand, newsletter, videos, a work with me page. The website is the front door to all of it. And so the old site was fine. It was Astro, Tailwind, clean enough, but it just looked like every other solo AI builder site I've seen this year, right? Same heroes, same stacks, feature cards, same vague. I help solopreneurs, builders with AI, copy, no personality, no proof, no brand. And I had the vibe in my head, operator direct, a little sharp, just real receipts, nothing crazy. And the problem is a vibe in your head is not a brand system. It is just a feeling, and no AI tool can read your feelings. And so like one of the few parts that bugged me the most, for example, I thought this was pretty clean. This came out with it at the time. I thought some of this animations were clean. I mean, you see a lot of white. Honestly, I went with the white because I was just safe. I just didn't know much about design. I mean, some of this doesn't even make sense. Like, this is a real picture. Just all of it just didn't align, to be honest. It just didn't feel cohesive. It just felt basic. It really honestly just felt like if you ever work with WordPress, like one of those templates you buy, it's not bad, but it's just not great either. So that's the part that bugged me. And I just felt with AI, I see all these people creating all these amazing designs. So I just wanted to do something similar. And it wasn't until Claude Design came out with that update that I figured I'd give it a shot. So the first job was to turn the vibe into a system. And that's what Claude Design is actually good at. So I sat down and I wrote the longest, most specific prompt I've ever written with an AI tool. I will leave it in the description so you can steal the structure. The prompt did 5 things worth stealing. So 1, tell Claude Design exactly who Ship Lean is. It's an operator in public AI systems for solo builders. 2, tell it what Ship Lean is not. It's not generic. AI automation, not a guru, no course seller, no corporate or not corporate. The negative list actually mattered more than the positive one, because the default mode for any design AI is SaaS slop with neutral network glow. So you have to fence that off really loud. And then 3, pointed at a reference target without asking for a copy. So I just pointed it at LinkedIn with infographic styles that I like from certain creators, to learn the patterns, to not even copy them, but just to learn them. And then 4, list the actual visuals, proof objects, file cards, terminal scripts, workflow maps, receipt boards, just status chips. This is the visual language specific objects, not vibes. And then 5, lock the palette. Warm paper, build orange, signal green, electric cyan, muted gray. There's no no-fly list, no fake screenshots, no fake analytics, no neon AI fog. So going back on the not generic part, or what not to do for AI, I think this is important because AI can go in so many directions. There's just so many possibilities it can go, that just at least stating where not to go, and the few things that you can definitely say do not go there, like no generic, I'm not a guru. As someone that's just starting, I wouldn't consider myself a guru. That's not even my vibe. So just stating stuff like this it's important, because that's what keeps it from heading in something you're going to be disappointed in versus something you actually like. So here, if you can see, like, this looks pretty clean, man. If you've ever even considered paying a brand for something like this, I mean, this would cost you a couple $100s, if not over $1,000, especially if you know who you are, right? Because this takes time. You got to understand color theory and many other things. You got to have good taste more than anything. And it would take time to build this. Like, it's not just something you can one shot. And I think Claude Design just did a really good job. I mean, you can see here telling me the font. I mean, it's stuff that I would never think about. I always stay with 1 or 2 colors, which is why my previous website was just white and blue, because I was safe. I just didn't know what to do. This one actually combined more colors, and it does it in a very tasteful way. And so this was the moment that I thought that I was about to one shot my website. I was like, oh, I'm done, right? And I was wrong. And so here's what I did. Once you build an asset in Claude Design, you can share it. So hit the share button, I hit copy, and then I went back to Codex and I just pasted it. And I just wrote 1 line, here's the new brand, and update the website. Codex came back with a slightly different version of my old site. It didn't even change the colors. I mean, it was like very subtle. So no file cards, no terminal strips, none of that operator energy. It just felt like generic what it did, honestly. When I just sat there for a minute, almost said, fine, I'll just pay for the template, right? I'll pay for a Tailwind template. Almost punted the whole thing for, I was just gonna, I almost just gave up. And I thought that because I had the brand guidelines, I thought that would be enough to say, hey, just build me an amazing website. You know how to do it. And clearly that wasn't enough. Codex didn't know what direction to go. And truthfully, if I'm being honest, that wasn't enough. I didn't give enough context. I didn't even say do a full website rebuild. I wasn't specific on what exactly to change or what colors to apply or how to apply them. And so of course I got a generic response. So then I just tried one different move, and then I finally started making progress. And so if you've ever used Codex, first, the GPT 5.5 is real. And personally, I'm using this more than Claude Code now. But if you've ever used Codex, and if you haven't, the point is that Image Gen 2 can generate amazing graphics. And so I took that to test. So what I did is I was like, hey, generate me a few assets. So let me show you right now. Generate 4 different wireframe hero builds for this website for my old version using Image Gen 2. And so we'll let this cook. And so what I did basically is the same thing I did here, as I just took my brand guidelines you saw here. So it can see the same thing I'm seeing. And I'm asking it for 4 different iterations of the hero section, which is right here. Because I wanted to get an idea of what the website will look like with the new branding. And so I just asked it to, hey, mock me up 4 different versions just to see what is possible. And so this is actually a good example so you can see what I'm talking about. So here are just 4 different iterations of ship lean using the brand asset. Now, mind you that this right here has a little more into it. This was generated after the fact. Here's another hack you can do. You can ask you can ask Codex to log in the browser with Claude AI/design, which is this right here, and ask it to prompt it for you what I just asked Codex to generate. Because I feel Claude has better taste for design. And so what you want here is to take the brand guidelines you just generated and have Claude generate you a mock-up of the 4 different variations. Codex gave me an idea, but these aren't as good as Claude Design. So I just want to point that out. Even then, ImageGen is still pretty cool. You can see here that it gives you 4 different options. These kind of look the same. I mean, there's the same style, it's just different iterations. You can see some here, different design, but the vibe overall feels the same. But if you want to get a drastically different style, I'm sure if you prompt back to Codex, it will come up with something different. But if you really wanted to get the best experience like I did, open Claude Design within Codex and have it prompted to generate something. So this is how I got to this point here, the hero section, because Codex prompt Claude for me. So yeah, here's where we asked how to prompt the hero section. So that's how I got this amazing one. I was like, oh man, this is pretty good. And so that is the whole move, real assets, not a description problem. Codex went from guessing at a brand to actually seeing the brand, getting actual hero page options for the website, color value, spacing, typography, everything, the terminal, strip pattern, all of it. And then I asked for one more thing. I didn't ask Codex to redesign the site. I just asked it to prioritize. Here's the brand, I told it. Here's the goal of the site. What pages and sections matter the most for someone landing here? Code deciding whether to subscribe. Codex came back with a list, hero first, value strip second, work with me page third, and blog is fourth. And that order became the entire rebuild plan. So here's a tip. When you hand off work between 2 AI tools, give the second tool the real asset, not a description of it. A real link, a file, a project. Summaries are how you get a generic response. You just take shortcuts and you want to get there fast, and sometimes going fast forces you to take shortcuts that will lead you into the wrong direction. So in this case, starting in Claude Code, sharing the assets from Claude Design to Codex is the move you're going to do. Using Codex to prompt Claude Design to generate more assets was an even better move, because we're leveraging both tools. I think Codex acts like the orchestrator. It can talk better than me. It can prompt better than me. I just give it the vision, and it helps me orchestrate and use Claude Design, in this case, as a tool that we're going to use to generate the design. So with this priority list in hand, the rest was just a loop. And so I didn't start rebuilding the whole site. I just started with the hero section. One section, and I did not ask for code for us. I asked for the mockups, right? So these static images, quick visual options, because now you can decide the branding. So batch 1 was bad, 2 and 4 looked like the old site, and then 1 was a little too busy, and then 1 looked like a SaaS startup page, and I just told Codex it was off, right? And so when I used Claude Design, that was the unlock, and less corporate, less gradients, and more gray and ink. Anyways, after the final batch was when I used Claude Design. That allowed me to lock into the tone that I was looking for, the aesthetic that I was looking for. And once the hero direction was locked, the rest was just a loop. Repeat this process for every section. So here's like a visual representation of Claude and basically how we did. This is our current site. This was the branding asset that we generated with Claude Code. What we didn't want, and the goal. So every section has its own commit. If a section comes back wrong, and it most likely will, especially the first few iterations, I didn't argue with Codex. I just said revert to the previous version and try again. And so how does that look like? So if you ever work with Codex or Claude Code, you should be working with GitHub and you should have your GitHub repo connected to that. So in this case, I have a folder. That's the best representation of what a repo is. It's just a collection of files. And so on GitHub, you basically back these up. And so every single time you make a big change, you just want to make sure you have the latest working version. So let's say I made a backup right now. We said we just went, let's just say Codex one shot at this and it just generated this website. I'm like, no, I don't like this. Go back to the beginning. It can revert back to this version easy. Just one simple command and it reverts back to the previous working version. So this is important because when you're making big changes, once you get a system working, I didn't go one by one. I just eventually started going, generate these 3 pages, generate these 4 or 5 pages. And I just kind of started not one-shotting it, but after I got the confidence that Codex knew the direction, that we have the right assets in place, and I like the vibe, then I just started going in batches instead of doing one by one. Otherwise, that would have taken me even longer. But I was not scared because if something went south, I can just say, hey, revert back, and then we would just go back. So another tip is having 4 mockups before you any code, and just one section at a time, and you can commit it every change. So once you got this, you can just ask it to generate the rest of the page using the same vibe. Assuming you like this structure, you can sort of restructure this if you want to, but if you want to keep it similar, you can just state the goal and then have Codex figure it out based on your brand guidelines, or even hash it out before it generates it. But if I'm moving on to, let's say, the about page or the work with me, I would then ask Codex to do the same thing here and then repeat the same process. Once we nail the page, to sort of the front and center of the first section of the page, then just run that all to the rest of the page. And then if it does it the wrong way or something looks off, you can easily revert, or you can just tweak if it's minor. So just after enough loops of the question stops being designed, it just starts being shipping, really. And so how does this even go back to live? But sometimes it's too slow for me, so I just push it directly to Vercel, and that's when I have the Vercel CLI, or that's why I have it, because I can just say, hey, I want you to push it directly to Vercel, so we can just push all the changes live really quick, and then I'll just say, then after, save it to GitHub. And so I finally shipped something that was clearly better than the old site. I mean, this was like a complete design. It's like I hired someone to pay like, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000, like no joke, to design all this. And then I wrote down what was still mid and just moved on. Right. But for example, the blog at the time, that was a big one. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of stuff that needed to change. A couple of older posts still look like the old site. So this is the new way. It's updated, but back then it wasn't. And so if you look over here, you'll see the old style. The images just didn't vibe the right way. The text, everything looked a little bit different. It was kind of clunky. And you can see here, it kind of matches the vibe, but also everything, the text, the font, tables, everything is just aligned. I mean, that was already like straightforward, but everything, even the hyperlinks. So all of it was just looking on point, man. That took just a few iterations, because when I did the page one by one, there was a lot of missed pages. So I had to go back and find some. Then I had to ask Claude Code I had to ask Codex to just QA itself and find other pages that we needed to do. And even at this point, I still think there's certain pages that I'm still going to update. So it's not 100% perfect, but it was good enough for me, and I just pushed it at the time. So it just went live in under a minute, honestly. And so here's just a quick illustration of what I mentioned earlier of the difference between good and bad prompting. A weak one is just make me a modern AI website, make me a dope website, and then you get something like this. Just blue gradients, so maybe purple, the famous purple, fake dashboards, very generic. And if you have a real brief, when you say something like ship, lean, brand guidelines, kit, orange, use different colors, you get a usable system that you can constantly reuse. And so the prompt that I use is this right here. This is one prompt that I would use if you're starting from scratch on something like Codex or Claude Code. So this is a prompt that you can use for Claude Code or Codex. So the whole loop fits in one screen. Right? It's generate the system prompt in Claude, open Codex and paste the direct project link, not a summary. Ask Codex to prioritize the sections by goal, and for each section, 4 mockups before any code. Pick one, implement, local preview, git commit, every change, hero first, money page second, everything else after, and then mobile and speed QA before you deploy it. And that's it. This is the whole rebuild. You'll get a website, something like this. I mean, nothing like what I'm seeing. Like, you'll probably get something, you should be getting something different, but you'll get something as polished like this. And link in the description, steal the system, swap your brand, run the loop on your own site. If this saves you from one-shotting a redesign and wondering why it looks generic, drop a like. It helps me out. And I'll see you on the next one.